did you fancy going for a picnic later, just the two of us?
No, I don't have time for that.
Okay, yeah. Well, if you wanted to do it later anyway, I'll
Sorry,
be here.
What is it you're doing now at all? Anything? Anything at all that you're doing with your time, day? Are you thinking of doing anything?
Well, of course I'm thinking of doing something.
Right.
You're just so... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
And do you think there'd be any point in that at all? Like anything useful? Well, I think what I'll do is I'm going to shoot you. I just can't. I'm having a lot of trouble finding a gun.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, don't worry. You wait here, and I'll see to it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing.
Hey, Tom Hiddleston, it's me, Owen Wilson. I've come for a portal to rescue into the MCU. I'm collecting all the Tom Hiddlestons, including this one.
Oh, no! No. I'm gonna do a Marvel. It's gonna be a Marvel.
I wanna do a Marvel. Fuck all the S&D. Hello and welcome to One Good Thing, the podcast that's just terribly sorry. Just terribly sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Paul Dreek.
I'm What's Just Edward.
Do you know what the Paul boys have been missing?
No.
It feels like their stuff is always so well prepared. Like they've really put a lot of work in and lots of notes and such. If only they could one day just fucking improvise one entirely off the dome. Well, surprise, kids! I didn't have time to do any notes.
Hooray!
I did plot notes and I did quick fires, but I did nothing about the production of the movie or anything else. So this one's going to be off the dome.
This is one of those special episodes where I did the most research.
I will be absolutely depending upon you.
Let's see what happens.
Gaps, but...
You'll all be sorry. This is a
see
singing,
what happens.
dancing
This is what
episode.
happens. We sing when we're nervous. Sing when we're nervous. Okay, so yes, this is indeed. Well, sorry, just terribly sorry.
Oh God.
2010.
Yes.
Nope, not even that. This is a 10 episode. And you know what that means recently? It's that we can watch whatever the hell we feel like.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, anything. Every 10 episodes, we reward ourselves for doing what we do by watching anything that catches our imagination. And this time round, we have chosen Joanna Hogg's seminal masterpiece, 2010's Archipelago.
Yes.
I have no idea what I'm doing. Am I doing the right thing? I have no idea. I'm going away to Africa for 11 months. Why? Who knows? I'm sure you've done the right thing.
Right, well, thanks for that, Edward.
Edward, your face is in the sun.
Sorry.
You did all that without notes. You don't need notes. You don't need any of us.
I don't need notes. Notes have been actually holding me back.
Pretty much.
Yes. Joanna Hogg, the excellent British film writer. Film writer, that's
film
right.
writer,
You
yeah.
see, that's the sort of thing that does get weeded out by notes, is me just making up film writer. She is a film writer. She's also a director.
It's true.
She seems to have started up with a number of interesting things, but she seems to have left school in the 70s and then worked with Derek Jarman, which is quite an elite sort of thing. It says here after a chance meeting in a patisserie Valerie in Soho.
I was just going to say...
I didn't know patisserie Valeries have been around that long.
Well, there you go. That's more the fool you for investing in a patisserie Valerie startup.
God, I'm glad to read that because I do get the impression she is rather posh.
Yes.
But it's nice to know that she just... Well, I mean, patisserie Valerie is not exactly the pastries of the people.
All a
if
pan
she met Derek
quotidien.
Jarman in a Greg's...
Yeah.
then that would have been a cinematic odyssey. That's how Ben Wheatley met Alice Lowe.
he met Alice Lowe siphoning day-old ale from a keg at a Wetherspoons.
Oh, you like to do this too?
Do you want some?
You ever seen Zardoz?
You haven't yet, Zar.
So that's the origin story there. And she borrows cameras off of him and starts sort of working about it, and makes a very early short film called Caprice, which is a early role for Tilda Swinton.
I've heard of her.
You've heard of her. She's been in
The Beach.
other Joanna Hogg movies. That's what she's mainly known for. Music videos, and then a couple of episodes of TV, including an episode of EastEnders called Dot's Story, which I'm pretty sure I remember correctly is the episode of EastEnders that is just Dot on her own being sad.
Okay.
That was a big deal at the time. I remember that being about the place, about the braid.
I think I remember Dot Cotton. She's like in the 90s already. She was very old and quite thin.
Yes, and had like short red hair and would say things like, "Oh, I don't know."
Oh yes, lovable Dot Cotton.
Lovable Dot Cotton was an early Joanna Hogg creation. That was her origin episode, where she falls into a vat of lava and comes out as Dot Cotton.
Joanna Hogg.
And she's been Dot Cotton ever since, and it's been marvellous, all of it.
It's worked out well for us.
So she makes her first film, which is called Unrelated, which is actually the acting debut of Mr. Tom Hiddleston.
Cool.
And this movie, Archipelago, is his second film.
Oh, wow. He's like 28 in this, I think.
Yeah, he's incredibly young, and it's very painful.
See, that's that research.
Oh, that's that research. I love it. It was just because you had to know.
I was looking at him and thinking, how does this stack up against my life where I am now? But also, he did look young.
Yeah, and 2 years after this, he's Mr. Marvel, because this is 2010, his second feature. Then Deep Blue Sea, Terrence Davies.
Yep.
Then
Not
Four, then The Avengers.
Wow.
And then The World. Yeah.
That's bonkers.
It is bonkers, and it's also crazy to look at his CV and realise he's not been very prolific these last few years.
Yeah. Because what was the last big thing he was in? High Rise? Nah, it's got to be something after. Oh, other than the Thor.
I mean, I love
Avengers.
High Rise. Other than the whole Thor and Loki and all the rest of it, I'm not sure. Has there been anything much since High Rise? I can't really see anything much. An Early Man. He did a voice in Early Man since Kong Skull Island.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeesh. That was a while
He's
ago.
been in a lot of, Marvel spin-offs.
Maybe that's enough. Also Crimson Peak, which is the first thing I think of him, because I saw Crimson Peak in cinemas twice, I think.
Okay.
But on both occasions, a line that got a big laugh was when he was desperately trying to reassure Mia Wasikowska by saying that we'll go out. And the line is, "We'll go out to the post office." And that line always just got a massive laugh both times because it's such a shit suggestion, Tom. Oh, the post office!
Go back to Joanna Hogg, you fob.
Even though this was like, this is set in the late 19th century, 20th century, I think.
In the late olden days.
19th century.
Yeah.
In the late olden days. It's the 19th century in America. So the post office is probably the most crazy shit you've ever seen, son!
I'd say, yeah.
Only a week ago, this letter was 20 miles away. Wow.
And for £17, we can get that sent anywhere.
Truly, this is the Asian king. Anyway, Joanna Hogg, yes, she makes this as a second big feature film, shot on location in the Isle of Scilly.
Yes.
I want to say. Basically, if you think England has a foot, which is Cornwall, this is the thing that's it's kicking.
Yes, well, it's the Scilly Isles, and it's a particular island on those
Tresco.
Isles of Scilly. Tresco. I messed up all my vowels in a sentence there.
San Fran Tresco.
Never mind, kids. We're going to Tresco. And
Be sure to wear flowers in your hair, or the birds will. The seagulls will have at you if you don't.
they'll fuck you up, son.
They'll fuck you up, and they're absolutely thrown by the sight of a flower.
I thought you were going to say they're thrown. They're seagull thrown.
By David Cameron, who's is filling up his days by hurling aquatic birds at people on the Isles of Scilly, and it's a terrible plight, and it's one that Liz Truss has been reluctant to join him in, but is her fate.
But did it nonetheless.
Anyway, this is what happens when you don't get notes. It's just absolute bollocks.
Absolute
but
shit.
This film premiered, had its UK premiere anyway at the BFI London Film Festival in 2010, the year after the first time I was there, and 5 years before I regularly started attending.
What a coincidence.
So What a coincidence.
How uncanny.
How uncanny indeed. Critics received it very well, I believe. So Manala Dogas says in the New York Times, in scene after scene, meaning sneaks in and sometimes roars.
Yes, it's very true. That's what my notes say.
And Jonathan Romney, in Best Magazine Ever Written, Sight and Sound, said, as much a downbeat comedy of bourgeois amours, Archipelago is a sort of claustrophobic horror story set in a place of no easy escape. It's just Britain, mate.
Welcome.
It's some sort of horror story set in a ghastly place where nobody talks to each other and everyone's furious all the time because of how shit the weather is. Imagine such a thing. Yeah. This fantasy film.
Yeah, it's Britain, mate. Yeah, but everyone's sad and angry for reasons they can't articulate. Everyone just goes around hating one another for no real reason when they should be hating the people in... Yeah, it's Britain. Yeah, but...
Nobody's fulfilled, but still pressure each other to conform to their own unfulfilling lives. I don't want to... Look, mate, this is getting pretty fucking repetitive.
But it's damp and the joints hurt when you wake up in the morning, and it shouldn't because it's summer. And then they put him in a box.
They put that man, Jonathan Romney, into the Sight and Sound box. Conversely, Ray Bennett for The Hollywood Reporter said, gloomy and unrewarding.
Fuck off all Americans. You're all the same.
It's England. What part of this don't you understand? Critics, public, meanwhile, stayed away in their droves because I couldn't find any Google reviews, which you know are my favourites.
they're the chocolates of the movie world.
Instead, okay, yes, I'm immediately going to read this. This is from Post-Mortem Books on IMDb.
Oh, yeah.
The subject line is, the birds have better dialogue than the actors. The opening scene has birds merrily singing in the background, and you settle yourself down to what you hope will be a treat to the eye at a Feston-style family bust-up. What you actually get for the next interminable 2 hours is extended shots of scenes, out of which the characters have disappeared some minutes before, the characters having said very little or nothing, and moody landscapes with birds singing or wind blowing. Blow up anyone? Yeah, that's true. She did rip this entire thing off from Antonioni.
Yeah, well, there you go. And again, Britain, mate. I don't know what you want. It's not Feston. It's not Dogma 95 Scandinavia.
It's not Scandinavia, where people eventually have crisis points and just lash out at each other in bizarre and bewildering expressions of frustrated love and rage. Instead, we just live disappointingly forever. Also,
it's fucking It's like settling down to this and being like, if you were expecting a wall-to-wall action blockbuster a la The Avengers Endgame, you'd be sorely disappointed. Do you know?
Starring action star Tom Hiddleston.
Do you know why? Because it's not the same kind of film as Feston.
I love the idea that they settled down to the idea of Feston and were disappointed. Damn it. The film has a certain score on certain films.
Wow.
Has 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, 80-something on Metacritic, I just saw. Hold on. 82% on Metacritic,
nice.
6.3 on IMDb, 3.4 on Letterboxd, which seems like a cooler place than Google. Google, I think, 61% like the film. Hey, it's not so bad.
That's not too bad. Some people on Google aren't cunts.
Still the lowest Google score I think we've ever seen. It's no Mordecai.
Yeah, well, we all know what to do with Google reviews. We just put them on a pedestal and worship them and do absolutely everything in our power to make them our own opinions.
Well, it made enough money to allow Joanna Hogg to make Exhibition.
£7. Yeah.
£7. That was enough to make her next brilliant film. The first with, Tom Hiddleston's in it. I think maybe Ayuadi might show up in it. But in any case, it was a brilliant... Exhibition is great as well. And this film, Archipelago, is the one that Martin Scorsese saw because he's seen every film, which led to their great partnership, which led to The Souvenir Part 1 and 2. And off we go into the future, merrily. She is much older than I thought. She is 63.
Wow. Okay.
The energy I got from the Archipelago was of a much, much younger director.
Yeah.
But of course, she was working with Jarman in the 70s. So...
Well, I mean, she was 50 at the time of Archipelago.
I guess so.
Yeah. The tricky thing is, 2010, Nell and I were talking about this yesterday, it's actually 13 years ago, which is ages.
That is 13 years ago. I thought you were exaggerating for comedic effect for a minute, and then I thought, no, that's 13 years ago, son.
Yeah. So that's 13 years is 13 years.
It's 13 years. You could have had a kid when this movie came out, and he's old enough that you can't really keep putting him underwater now. At least he'll fight back more effectively.
And you will be disappointed in him, but that's okay.
Yeah.
He'll be disappointed in you.
All right, Paul.
All right.
Paul, you floppy-haired fart. What's one thing about Archipelago? I started this as if I had something to read after I started saying it. What's one thing about Archipelago that made you want to send back the fish?
That really, really hurt, actually. I got to say, Paul, Tom Hiddleston's look here of that like foppish.
Yeah.
It looks like an Etonian suddenly wanted to dress bohemian, and this is their idea of what bohemian is. Alternating bits of corduroy and jumpers and jackets, and the foppishest hair.
So foppy.
He's so foppy is the thing. And it was wonderful to watch him bounce around obliviously and yet traumatized.
Obliviously to how much everybody just absolutely despises him, and yet also very aware of it.
Yeah, at the same time, but for different reasons.
just doing the British thing of just assuming that people don't think the worst of you. Surely. They can't think as badly of me as I think they do.
Yeah.
And then you'll always be unpleasantly surprised when a family member speaks up.
But look how nice I'm being to them. They can't hate me for this. And yet behaving as though everybody does hate you. So, Britain.
So, yes. The film is we're on an island. We're on the Isle of Scilly, a very remote, desolate, kind of windswept, but often beautiful kind of place. Tiny little island that Cornwall is pointed at, and everybody there is perfectly fine until Tom Hiddleston shows up to be just in everybody's way all the time.
To hover a bit, to hang, to cling to the scenery, and just to walk off in an opposite direction when he doesn't have anything to say.
To just be in between you and the bit that you need. The bit of
oxygen that you need.
Sorry, can I just yes.
I can help.
I haven't unpacked, so you can easily have that one if you want to. I just stayed there last night.
I don't mind.
Well, choose.
Honestly, I really don't mind.
It's your trip.
I don't mind. I tell you what, you.
Oh, come on, just
you
choose
stay in
it.
there.
Don't be
It's
so
fine.
nice.
It's fine. I'll
Really?
Yeah. Go up,
Sure?
yeah.
Okay.
It's a family.
Yes.
We have Mum Patricia and Sister Cynthia.
Yes. And brother.
They're having
Edward.
Hiddleston over because he's off to Africa to do some very important work.
Yeah. Well, it's a family.
This could be a prequel to All My Friends Hate Me.
It is. And they went fucking hard with All My Friends Hate Me. They T2 Judgment Dayed Archipelago. This
Is anyone here?
this is a family holiday, Paul. They all come to Tresco for a lovely family holiday.
It is their home, right?
I thought that they were all leaving because the cleaners come in and.
Oh no, they are leaving, but it. No, you're right. So it couldn't have been. It's just they take a painting down, but there's a lot to be said about that.
I think it's a holiday
We'll
home.
talk about
It's
that.
a holiday home.
It's a holiday home, and they decided to take the painting down, and it's interesting why. Okay, so yes, it's a family. They're in a holiday home. They've also invited the estranged husband, Dad.
Yes.
He's rather busy being estranged, but he will be along soon. It takes ages to be estranged. It's a full time.
You've really got to. You can't just start unpicking estrangement and it be okay. He's worked bloody hard, and people and women in society don't respect that nearly enough. But
well, speaking of women not being respected nearly enough, is Hiddleston's not estranged girlfriend also wanted to come, and he wanted her to come, but no, absolutely no outsiders, just family, except Rose, the cook they've hired.
and the painter Christopher they hired to teach
and
them
the
how to
painter
paint.
who will spend a lot of time around.
But apart from that,
apart from that, no family. No, only family. No family.
Oh my god! Look, when I say no, I just mean no to you. So.
To what you want,
but they're giving him a lovely send off. Only family allowed. Just being me and my family, me and my kids, because Edward is going off. It's not a gap year. It's not a gap year. He's going away to Africa.
He's well and truly out of university, but he's off to Africa to help them with all the AIDS they've got.
To help stop it. Basically, he's going to stand there with a windbreaker.
Very much anti.
Yeah, you've got to be nowadays. So he's going there. It's not a gap year. Definitely not a gap year. But he does like to talk about it. He's got a few things to say.
He does enjoy talking about.
In fact, it's the only thing he's able to string a sentence together about.
And there's a kind of Western fatigue about AIDS, I think, but it's still huge there. Everyone's, ever since the 80s, the mid-80s, when people sort of understood what a big deal it was. And now in Africa, it's as big a deal as it ever was. But we've got a bit tired of hearing about it. And it's killing people all the time.
And you don't think it's a lost cause?
No, of course it's not a lost cause.
God bless him. At dinner, things get a bit worse, though. We get a sense of the mother being just appalled by nearly everything, and Sister Cynthia being an absolute dick.
Yeah.
It's not a gap year, see. I really want you to understand that.
No, I'm. It sounds great. I mean, of course, it's wonderful to what you're doing. It's really great. Perhaps you could have done it a few years ago.
It's quite different.
Step with your generation.
Yeah, he's doing
And then you could
now.
just get on with getting a job and working like the rest of us.
He's had a job.
Oh, I'll never feel any sympathy for her.
Not once. And Hiddleston is a British man, so he's just rubbish. Not a bad person, just not very good. You know, like the Northern Line.
Yeah.
He's all right. It's just a bit.
Avoid if possible.
It's not. It's just not very good, is it?
No, but he takes a bit of a shining to the hired help for whatever reason.
Yes, he does.
It probably just feels a bit sorry for her and wants to be seen as an everyman, so he offers to just be around and help her with everything, and including breathing, walking, existing.
Yes, and Christopher is here, who the mum, I get the impression, quite likes. And
yes.
Well, everybody quite likes him.
Everybody quite likes him.
And
well, the mum, he's the only person the mum again can string an entire sentence together for.
Well, actually, most people just want to paint the view, but which is the starting point. But and that's where I started. But as you get older, I suppose you want to say something with it. So it's a bit of sort of a strange thing I'm teaching. I'm teaching very specific, focused things to do, and yet I'm also introducing the idea of chaos as well. And that's part of this kind of wonderful, sort of journey. It's like this two-horse race that you're galloping off into no man's land with these two horses, I suppose.
So Christopher is here. He's Mr. Painter, and he and Tom Hiddleston often exist in similar spaces to each other for extended periods of time, and that's real affection between British men.
Yeah, most of the time.
I think they bond quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that's a companionable silence most of us could only dream of. And yes, problem is, Paul, can't all just hang out with Christopher all of the time. They've got to spend time together as a family.
Yay. Well, they can do that at the picnic. Oh, the mum's not feeling well. Well, that's that fuck. Then it's time to downscale the picnic. Oh, Christopher's coming. Brilliant.
Fantastic. He can just talk.
I don't know what the mother's problem is, though. The picnic's only 7 miles away via walking. They walk several islands worth in order to get there. Anyway, just a bit longer to go, so why are you such a fuck-up, Tom? Asked the sister.
Sorry, says Tom.
It's a shame, just having been given the opportunity. It was all pretty set up.
There's an awful lot you can't do when you're doing that kind of work. Not exactly nourishing.
Pity you could stick at it just for a bit longer. Must be a bit embarrassing for Dad.
Whilst the mother says, is it worth going to Africa to fight AIDS? You don't think it's a losing battle? Amazing.
Britain. Everybody, Britain. And yeah, and Tom Hiddleston stands up for himself. He goes, well, and then in the next scene...
Well, after the picnic's over, Christopher urges them to take some quick, spontaneous work in order to get some paintings done, which I quite enjoy. Yes, but they get back to the house. Oh, good, the estranged husband is calling. That'll be news that he's nearby, I expect.
Probably. In keeping with the ways of estranged husbands.
Always nearby.
Yeah. Not long, he says, probably. And he speaks to the mum on the phone, and she's like, yes, it's all very fantastic. Very, 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 very good. Very.
Nobody's crying yet. It's the best we've ever done.
Yeah, well, 27 hours and counting.
Well,
see you soon.
Rose, the cook, she does up some lobsters, which Hiddleston finds a terrible shame.
Yes.
It's nothing a long and vivid description of their painful deaths won't help, so thanks, Rose.
So the way that we learnt was to put them into sort of tepid water, sort of warmish.
Yeah.
And then as you bring the water up to a boil or a simmer, they will automatically fall into a coma, basically. And then they'll die peacefully.
Right.
Rather than, putting them in a thing of boiling water.
Which is like gassing them or something.
Yeah, it's like torturing them.
Yeah.
Which is not, not fair. I mean, none of it's fair, really, but it's probably not a conversation you want to have, being a vegetarian.
He then subsequently gets his revenge by putting her into the most awkward moment ever filmed.
And similarly to putting lobsters in tepid water so they fall into a coma, his manner eases everybody well into the next scene before anyone's realised what's happened.
Well, they can't just sit around eating these terrible lobsters all day, so it's time to go out for a nice lunch at a fancy restaurant. It's surely going to be hard to be immensely awkward in this empty room. Could you excuse me just one moment, mate?
Fucking say what's wrong! Where do you want to sit? Just say something!
Do you sit here? Yeah?
Whatever you'd like, darling.
Would you like this? This is good, isn't it? In the middle. Do you want to go look out the window? Should we go? Let's go this one. Yeah, nice to have a view, isn't it? Are you cold?
It's looking a bit bleak.
All right. Well, where do you want to sit? Where should we sit? Everyone? This one's good, isn't it? 5, isn't it? That's right. Here. Great. You don't look convinced, Mum. What is it? Should you want to go that one? All right. Okay.
Do you think so?
Come on, then. Let's move on to that one. Got so much choice. Might as well get it right.
Mum, you don't look convinced. Oh.
God.
Oof. Oof.
Oh.
Woof.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, look, the mum was quite annoying in that scene, so the audience might be sympathising with the sister, so let's do something about that.
Quick.
This isn't done properly. No, it's already pink.
Really?
Yeah, it shouldn't be like that. No, it shouldn't be like that at all. Wait for 25 minutes and then... Look. Well, isn't yours bad, Mum?
I think mine's fine.
You don't have to say it's fine if it's not. I mean, we've paid, so we can easily send it back.
It's fine.
Well, mine's definitely not fine at all.
Well, should we get somebody over?
Because look, that's actually quite dangerous if you eat it like that, isn't it? So that...
Yeah, I mean, if you're not happy with it, then...
No, well, there's just no point in not complaining when you're in a restaurant for the one day out. Excuse me. Everything else is all right, is it?
Yeah, seems good. Yeah.
You okay there?
Hi, no, this isn't, cooked properly in the middle.
Oh,
Yeah.
awfully sorry about that. Would you
That's
like
all
me
right.
to get you a new one, or would you...
I think I'll just have something else, actually. Maybe I'll just have a soup. Because that's actually quite dangerous, I think, if you eat that. Mum, don't you want to send yours back?
It's fine.
You don't have to say it's fine. I'm sending mine back, so...
I've eaten some. It's fine.
Fine, all right. There we are. Thank you very much.
Okay, would you...
Soup, great, yeah.
Yeah? Oh,
Do you think,
sorry
actually,
about
can I have a
that.
word with the chef? Because that's actually quite dangerous.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you.
I'll just go and get him for you.
Thanks. You don't have to sit quietly, and you don't have to look at me like I'm making a massive scene, like how embarrassing. It's not cooked properly. It's dangerous. It'd be nice if I didn't sit here with everyone just in silence around me.
Oh, well.
Oh, dear.
That's the only problem with the food she has for the rest of the movie. I'll be fine.
Oh, Dad's on the phone again.
brilliant.
Oh, he'll be here soon.
Really fine.
Oh, get over here. Come join the party.
Come on, it's only gonna last for so long. I'm not crying.
This vibe can't last forever.
Before I murder my family. After she's done singing the song that we've all sung once or twice a day.
We do get the impression the restaurant scene might have convinced the audience that the sister is just an absolute monster, so best to have a scene of her crying alone to build up some empathy. They don't cut to the waiter or the chef, though. How are they getting on?
Yeah.
They're fine. They're not
Yeah,
here.
they're totally fine. They're fine.
They're
Yeah.
okay.
Tom Hiddleston, obviously, after that dinner scene, he walks out of the restaurant without saying a thing.
Oh, of
and
course.
has a quick sob to himself. And
Oh yeah,
the healthy
But
way.
that, everyone's having a little quiet sob.
Yeah.
And a nice art lesson in the living room. Oh fuck, here comes Tom. Oh, would you mind just leaving, please? Or actually, you make everybody very uncomfortable. Oh yes, I'll yes.
And then,
Yes.
and then he
of course.
doesn't leave.
Yes,
He just stands.
I'll just
yeah.
go. Is it? Sorry, shall I? Do you mind if I? No. I just I could just sorry. Oh no, I seem to have made it rather worse, haven't I? Oh dear. All right. I'll just see if I can. Sorry, if I could just. No. Okay, 17 minutes he does that.
It ends with him kneeling behind the sofa with his head clearly visible. And
no one else was in the room. Everyone else had left.
Gone off to have an amazing day, in fact.
They really copied that DM after they just decided to leave the room. Oh, God.
Is pheasant time, is it?
Is
a
it
lovely
pheasant
brace
time? Well,
of pheasant.
He's not always lost for words because it's time for a good dinner time story that he tells everyone about the people dying. But story time's over, so it's time for an argument.
Yeah.
So you going to split up?
No, we're not going to split up.
Okay.
I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, actually, frankly, it would have been nice to have had her here with us now. I don't really see why she couldn't have come.
She couldn't really come here, could she? Because it was like a family holiday.
Well, actually, she could have come, Cynthia, and you may refer to it as a family holiday, but she actually feels like family to me in that I'm attached to her, and she's someone who's significant in my life, and she could have come.
Well, it's not really family, is it? That's just someone you're attached to, who you've been out with for a year and a half.
So you think a year and a half is nothing, that I'm going away for 11 months and a year and a half is
Well, you
is
obviously
nothing.
think it's nothing if you're going away for 11 months. Can't be the top priority in your life, can it?
Yes, Hiddleston proves so incapable of defending himself against his sister that God steps in and puts some shot in her food to try and level out the playing field a bit.
And everybody goes, "Oh God, you absolute legend." We all know this is her weak point. It just
She goes off to complain to that restaurant again.
Yeah.
No, I just think it's dangerous. There's shot in this pheasant. You left days ago. It's just not good.
Why are my nails bitten all the way down? And she
My nails.
She disappears and for several hours, and it's raining, which is just Britain. And eventually she comes back, and the mum goes up to have a lovely little chat where they patch things up.
Things are getting a bit fraught. Oh, good, the dad's on the phone again. He's got to be crazy close at this stage.
Oh God, he must be outside doing a prank.
Speaking of crazy close, I think, even though this is not the film that you could generally speaking spoil, maybe we should leave there on the cliffhanger.
I believe so. What will the dad say?
Is the dad going to show up?
Who's going to play the dad? And why is it Michael Shannon?
Hello, sorry I'm late. I heard that there was tension here. Well, don't worry about that.
It's me.
I can put that right.
Comic relief. And then he does that smile of his.
The iconic fetching smile that we all know him for.
That's the money maker.
Well, mate, that's as much of Michael Shannon's Archipelago as I'd like to recount. So first of all, had you seen this before?
No, I hadn't. Over Christmas, or just before Christmas, in fact, we were made aware of Play DVD, which is a brilliant movie store in Melbourne in the CBD, with just a fantastic range of independent, like foreign cinema. Foreign being, including British. It was very hard to get a hold of any Joanna Hogg. So after buying a whole bunch of Fellini and Wong Kar-wai and whatnot, and whatnot, in the end, I risked having a conversation with another human being to say, hey, could we potentially order in Archipelago and The Souvenir Part 1 and 2? And after a little bit of just screaming and shaking their head and smashing the computer monitor around the place, they're like, oh yeah, we can get you one from Britain, actually. It's going to cost a lot, but here we go. And I'd always intended to, and I sort of made it my mission to get through this pile. And I watched a few over Christmas, and then didn't get around to any more. So when we were trying to decide what to watch this week, I've suddenly remembered I had this pile of DVDs that I really, really, really wanted to watch. Archipelago is in there.
Good stuff. Well, let's return to that pile when we do this, because there's some good stuff
There's
in
some good ones.
I hope this new place is a little more on it, because I remember the place you took me to when we were hoping to get a copy of Peter Strickland's In Fabric.
Oh yeah,
which had recently been released in DVD in the UK. And I remember we just spoke to him, and he was just like, "No, it's not out yet."
Yeah.
Oh wait, I saw it at the London Film Festival last year, and it was released in cinemas sort of 2 months ago. It was like, "No, it's not out yet, mate."
That was a different time and a different place. This other place is probably two, three times the size, and if not, we'd have been able to order it in from Britain. So if you'd have just hung around for a couple of months, they've got everyone's number. Blackmail, so it's unreasonable terms that, they're in contact with everybody, but can't argue with those results, mate.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Oh, speaking of having everyone's number, sometimes at Sight and Sound, the casualness with which they will refer to somebody is just fucking alarming. The other day they were just like, we've had a call from John Glazer. John Glazer? Absolutely not. The director of Under the Skin and The Sexy Beast. That is Jonathan Glazer. So you treat his name with reverence.
From J-Dog, Glaze Dog.
From Jay Glazers.
From Jay Glizzle, twat.
He's want to give whatever he can have his dildo back.
Twat face. Hope you called him a twat, mate.
He says, bah.
I did.
On your head knob.
On your knob,
so,
dickhead.
Speaking of on your head knob, I discovered Joanna Hogg with Exhibition.
Yes.
That was the first one of hers I saw, which is the next film. And loved it. Loved the menacing sort of nature of it. I saw it around the same time as The Duke of Burgundy, and it was a nice double bill, I think, of sort of disaffected people. Obviously, Strickland's film is a bit more out there, but Exhibition had this wonderful sense to it, this sense of melancholy and a slight menace to it as well, which I really liked. And it was very, very London, very stately.
London.
That's what her films feel like at this stage. There's a stateliness to it, which I think Souvenir Part 2 sort of saw her kind of shrug off and embrace something a bit wilder, a bit madder. But yeah, this I then went back, sort of retrospectively, watched the other sort of. I haven't seen the first one, actually.
Unrelated.
But unrelated. I haven't.
But you have seen Dot Story, so.
I've seen
Dot Story.
Oh yeah, I've seen Dot Story. We've all seen Dot Story. It's required viewing.
Have to, yeah. They put that on in the middle of the coronation just to keep us, feeling loyal.
So I saw Archipelago a while ago, and then I saw it again in lockdown. And at that point, I think I must have messaged to you. I saw it in 2020 when I was dreaming of a disappointing holiday. And I found a message to you where I think I said to you, I must have said something to you because you then sent me a message saying I've pre-ordered Archipelago or something like that. Or it really struck me the second time around. I think it just. What did you think of it?
Oh, I loved it. I was curious to see whether or not it would trigger that cringe or that embarrassment. But honestly, not even comparatively to something like All My Friends Hate Me, I didn't suffer that really at all. Even the horrendous dinner scene, I clearly family embarrassment just isn't. Maybe I'm just inured to it at this point, and that's right. I hate my family, but that aside, I absolutely loved it. It just feels so unique. It feels unique. The framing, like the way everything is staged, you're just given this picture of every scene. There's no every scene, or most scenes, except for maybe the bike ride at the beginning, is a stationary camera, and you just get a window into a room of people walking, coming in and out, and seeing how their presence affects the dynamic. And it just straight away, I just realised that rather than get reverse shot and a camera or a director telling you what's important or what to focus on, you're just given every little awkward pause, every little eye wandering over shoulder or looking out the window for just hoping to God for a distraction or something else to talk about. Or just the awkwardness in the way humans hold themselves when they're just listening to somebody talk. And in all of that, there's so much said in every scene. It felt it was so immersive. I wondered if I've always wondered if that kind of stylistic choice would be jarring or authorial, or just do anything to remind me of the fact that I'm watching a film, but it was the complete opposite. And I just thought what it showed about this family and their ability to communicate with one another, as opposed to an outsider, was fascinating. And the way the film developed the characters as well. The artist Christopher actually sums it up later on in the movie. It pretty much just tells you how the film has been structured. By giving you these little glimpses to like help you get a better idea of each of these characters and how they work, and eventually they fill them out and leave you to join the dots on their stories and like how their history as a family, the mum and dad being estranged, has affected them all. It's just masterful.
Yeah. It really is. It's incredible. And that style it's really unique and it's really special and feels very just sort of authentic to the experience. I think her influences, she's cited Eric Rohmer, the sort of French director, as sort of, again, and there is a lot of that in there, but it's a very British take on Rohmer, because Rohmer's French, so when he makes movies like Pauline at the Beach, which is just a profoundly effective sort of almost comedic farce movie about a mother and daughter who go on holiday and then get into all sorts of romantic entanglements predicated around misunderstandings and such, but not in a zany kind of farcical way, in a very in a very just naturalistic way. Naturalism is the big priority. She also cites Yasujiro Ozu, and you can tell that she loves Chantal Akerman, because the whole still cameras, barely any movement, distance. Chantal Akerman in particular, like distance from the subject and just sort of indifference almost to whether or not the main characters are occupying that particular space, but also plenty of shots with them not occupying that space in order to create this sort of, I don't know, this sense of passivity almost within the whole thing, and yet to have so much drama in it. There's just so many moments of framing where it just feels so believable. A tiny moment, the first time we see them all in the house and are arguing about which room to have. It felt so evocative, like you were just there in that hallway listening to this. Something to do with the sound design as well, which is just flawless. The echo as they turn to like go up the stairs and talk and continue talking. It just, I don't know, the reverberation around this tiny little wooden British house. Just, I don't know, it really spoke to me.
And that scene immediately tells you exactly who the characters are.
Yes,
immediately.
Absolutely. It's effortless. Like, the sister is frustrated, the mother
and aggressive
is just quietly disappointed by everything, passive aggressive, and Tom Hiddleston's just a bit wet.
Just such a pushover, and and completely withdrawn and like self-effacing.
Yes, we should name all three of the actors in this, because it's a three-hander essentially between Tom Hiddleston as Edward. You've got Kate Fahey as the sister, Patricia. No, as the mother, Patricia. And Lydia Leonard as Cynthia, the sister.
Yes.
The sister, weirdly, Lydia Leonard, not been in a tremendous amount. She was in Last Christmas.
Okay.
But you really get, like, she reminded me a lot of Ruth Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of just having a real sort of sternness, but a real humanity at the heart of it. And then Rose is Amy Lloyd, who I can't find much about what she's done.
A couple of other things, but very, very small career at the moment.
Well, she picks her actors really well, because Christopher Baker, of course, not an actor; he's an actual artist, which speaks to a very bohemian thing, and she's done that as well. Nowadays, she's more likely to cast people like Tilda Swinton and her daughter, or Richard Ayoade, but still have background roles filled by people who feel really authentic.
And that was great, because when Christopher Baker first shows up and he's talking about abstraction in art.
Yes, abstraction is his first thing. At which point I do make the note, he's a bit insufferable, but it's also really charming. He really cares about what he's talking about.
That's it. It was really charming, and it felt like it was only made awkward to me when the camera kind of reveals that he's talking to the mum and daughter, and then there's something artificial about the discussion, but like you can tell that he's not doing it to be. He's not like
wanky.
He's not
trying to show.
He's not
off.
like a Woody Allen character, like a pedant or self-aggrandizing. He's just so passionate about it, and it's lovely to hear him speak about it.
It is,
and it
absolutely is, because it recalls like Agnes Varda. She made a short film where she goes to meet her uncle. I can't remember what it's called. It's called My Uncle and then his name. But he's such a fucking cool guy. He's living on like a canal boat, and he's an artist, and he's the coolest dude you've ever seen in your life. It reminds you kind of that. And it's weird because you do get the impression he's just on holiday. He's not like this beautiful bohemian. He's not like Derek. Well, he is. Oh God, maybe he's Derek Jarman. maybe that's the parallel, because Derek Jarman had his cottage out in the middle of nowhere,
Okay.
where he would go out and do his great work. So maybe this is a Jarman alike.
Maybe.
But I assume that, Baker also,
Yeah.
kind of has. They would have based this somewhat on his actual.
Yeah. Well, it just lends the whole thing verisimilitude, and like the film is already oozing with the stuff, but just decisions like that to cast somebody like Christopher Baker to play Christopher is again masterful. But yeah, the performers are fantastic. Lydia Leonard as Cynthia, she's so she's just bristling with anger throughout that you eventually come to understand. Frustration, and just desperate to be honest to her parents about a lot, and it's just wonderful the way that's revealed. It's kind of teased out, so your sympathies are generally against her to begin with because of how domineering she is and uncompromising, but it all fits. And it gives you this cross section of this family's life, and it's so compassionate at the same time as being, it really is. It is bleak and funny in the way that life often is, that you have to find a lot of life.
It is. It's almost dark humor, really. In its stylings, but you get to find out so little about Cynthia. I feel that like you don't get to hear a great deal about what she's got going on, but you do get the sense that she rather expects Hiddleston to sort of pull his weight, and I don't know, like you do see it. It's interesting because it's not a relationship I have with a sibling, but it's really interesting to see that sort of concern for their well-being manifest as just sort of irritation.
Yeah, definitely. It just seems like so much is unresolved on top of that, with the parents being, the father being estranged. That Cynthia clearly has a lot of anger towards her mum for not being more, assertive when the dad has failed them, and probably sees the.
Well, in general, I think.
Yeah. Just
assertive in general.
Yeah, true. And it's sad when you see them when Patricia, the mum, when she's talking to Christopher, how animated she is and how expressive.
Yeah.
And how just like emotionally honest. Her and Christopher have this wonderful chat about having children, and it ends with the platitudes kind of the mum of Patricia, but
it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, and kind of is in the movie, but it's also kind of a platitude. But she comes alive, and as soon as the children come into the scene, she stops. She clams up and she just stares into the distance. And you can tell it, like, whatever she's feeling, whether it's guilt or just horror or whatever. It's so everything is so tightly intertwined. With the family dynamic, and then their performances get that across so well, and they've really taken to the improvisational style expertly.
Indeed. Two things I would like to discuss before we move on to quickfire. First of all, is I really like the idea that what we're seeing of Tom Hiddleston's character is kind of the female gaze. It's Joanna Hogg's sort of impression of this character. And that's really interesting to me, because this character would so much be the sort of main character of other films, because it would be the sort of director's relation point. And I've no doubt that, Joanna Hogg relates to that character, that she's felt that sense of aimlessness and a quarter-life crisis, as it gets called. But it's also really interesting to just see the concept of a man just being this sort of very tall,
horrifying,
slightly awkward thing that's not very good at communicating and just kind of lumbers awkwardly in rooms. And that was kind of amazing to me to see. I really loved that.
He was really something. He was hovering at the edge, but in the middle geographically of every single scene. Just hiding in aloofness as he contemplated, adding a word to the end of every sentence he spoke. He was such a confused individual. It was really something to see.
It was. Second thing, last thing, is the picture they took down. I've just shared my screen. There's a picture here of it on the wall.
Yeah.
So is this earlier, perhaps before they take it down? So
No,
you can
that's
see
at the end.
painting a bit in the background. That's at the end. That's after they've put it back up. Yes, he sits down to look at it because he's not happy with it.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember that shot now. He puts the picture back up and he's like, oh, it's not quite level. It's the ceiling.
Ceilings are wonky, aren't they? Yeah.
And then he just sits down and then it's like, that'll do. But then sits down and just stares dead at it as if he's still just trying to figure out what's... But, okay, so why did they take the picture down? The picture is of a tumultuous sea with a figure in it, right? On a boat?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, so and they explain to Rose why they took it down. I love Rose as well, by the way. She's just this practical woman. She's going to come up quite a bit in Quickfire. She was great, and just such a good contrast to all of them. She asked why it came down, and I think the mother just says, "Well, it's just sort of horrible." So what do we make of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's something that the father owned or the father insisted be put up.
Yeah. Well, the references to the father is that he's quite posh, isn't he? Because they talk about him shooting.
He's a shooter, yeah.
Yeah, and Hiddleston's rubbish impression of him is of him being... and that's so heartbreaking as well, when he scores a success with an early impression and makes people laugh, and then keeps trying it every now and then to diminished results throughout the weekend.
Yeah. God. But yeah, I don't really know what to make of it, other than assuming it was related to the father somehow. Yeah.
Yes, I got that impression to the point when I thought it was their place.
Yeah, they do own it.
You know, or like a holiday home or something.
Yeah.
They do own it, right? That's what I wondered.
Yeah.
So maybe the father painted it or something? I don't know.
Maybe.
Very odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe she has a thing for painters. Maybe that's the mum's type.
Maybe.
Maybe. Anyway, lots to consider. But we can consider that whilst we quickfire.
In silence later.
Quickfire.
Well, I like the introduction of Christopher at the very beginning. You got this lovely, like a peaceful cove or shore, and then this abstract-ish. Well, not abstract, but it's just like a almost. The colors reminded me of like a Munch or something. The landscape he was painting, and it's so dramatic and angry compared to what I was painting. I just love that as an introduction.
Yeah, that's really good. Speaking of great introductions, I really love the awkwardness of the bikes. They're riding bikes, mother and daughter, looking quite happy and smiling pleasantly ahead. Then cut to just Tom Hiddleston sat on the back of a truck just in front of them, just smiling awkwardly,
the grin,
seemingly not knowing whether it's okay to stop smiling. It's God,
yeah, that's wonderful,
just beautiful. A really, really good way to kick the whole thing off and just lay out what this is going to be about.
Yeah. And then, again, that dynamic, the interplay in choosing the room when they're on the landing, when Tom is like mumbling his way through, Edward, and then Cynthia just interrupts with it. Don't be so nice. That is the dynamic as far as this goes.
Yeah, that's her.
It's amazing. Yeah.
That's really good. And I love the way dialogue sounds.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of this was improvised. I don't know if that's part of her process, but...
Yes, I think
there's such a naturalism to it.
Yeah, I was reading up about it yesterday. I'm pretty sure, improvisation is a big part of it.
I love how just everybody fucking hates it when Hiddleston talks to Rose.
Yeah.
Well, I better get back, but it won't be long.
Great. Well, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Do you want to finish that for me?
You don't have to. I'm so good.
What?
She's used to it. She can just go in now. That's what she does all the time.
Darling, I don't think we need to whisper.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because it's the first time she walks through the room. She just walks through the room.
Yeah.
And he just decides to engage in conversation. And the sister just visibly bristles.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah.
Can we just not?
Yeah.
And and then he says the wonderfully rubbish thing to her of just, where are you from? And she says, and he's like, oh, that's almost up to Cambridge. And she goes, and he then immediately corrects to, well, on the way.
Yeah.
Because I've got everything's on the way.
Yeah.
It's a great sudden backpedal. It's really good.
Yeah. that conversation does go on for far too long, because as soon as you think, she's got an out, she can leave, he asks another question, and it just tritest, the most trite, banal stuff. But she's so lovely and professional that she makes all of their scenes together so charming, because for a while I thought, she enjoys talking to him, but then eventually it gets to the point where it's clear that she just needs him to leave.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's just... And she's so natural. Like, the scene of her talking to the guy and asking how to pluck the pheasants.
Morning.
Hi.
All well?
Hi, I'm Rose.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
I'm cooking for the family.
Ideal. I bought you a brace of birds from the shoot the other day.
Yeah, great. I didn't know you were coming. The family, they've gone for a walk.
No, I've rather sprung it on you then.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, so I brought you a nice brace. They've been hung for 3 or 4 days, so they're ready to pluck, really.
Wow.
So it'd be super.
You're just like, this is how two people might talk.
It's important lessons for the two of us.
People don't hate themselves and each other.
Yeah. And similarly, when she's talking to the fisherman, the fisherman is just lovely, like fuzzy.
That's right, about female or male lobsters.
And she's just interested and normal. It's very nice. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, my next one is just the performance of Rose, just really naturalistic and excellent. So another when they're en route to the picnic, there's a shot of like a winding path into the hills, and a few steps into the scene, Cynthia starts criticizing Edward again. And there's something just like, I just don't know why you'd want to go there and make this decision and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, Tom Hiddleston, his gait changes. It becomes a bit more ambling, and he just seems a bit like less inclined to follow them. And then eventually, and suddenly veers off the path and walks away from them all, dawdling but purposeful.
Amazing.
And it was so funny. I was expecting it to happen, but the suddenness with which he just walks off the path is amazing.
Yeah,
because it's like the quietest resistance he could do is just to leave them.
Yeah, always his way.
Yeah.
And I love. Okay, so there's a shot where he's at the breakfast table,
Yeah.
seemingly surrounded. I can't remember what the subject matter is. It's relatively fraught. She's saying that her parent has died. Her father's died. Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're outside. He's at the breakfast table, and she is in the middle of frame, prominently, but awkwardly placed behind a table with her hand on the table. Like, this is as close to being in the room as she can get, and he's just sort of sat squashed up in the far left of screen.
Yes.
It's wonderful framing. There's such brilliant framing in this.
And it makes him look so young. Is that when he's got his little cereal bowl as well?
Yes. Well, later on he goes and... Oh, that's another one of the things I fucking love, is when he's in the kitchen and he's rebelling a little bit.
Yeah.
And he just says, I can do it myself, look, cereal, bowl, that sort of thing. And then just a moment, a long silence. It's just, you're right. Yeah, I just can't find a spoon. He's so rubbish. He can't do it.
Yeah. It's
so funny.
Oh, God. When during the picnic, it cuts away to he puts on his dad's hat and does that impression of him, and then it cuts away, we get some scenery, and then it cuts back and he's talking about the AIDS epidemic in Africa, but he's still wearing the silly hat, and it elevates the whole scene into farce. Just how fucking ridiculous he looks whilst he's talking about this thing po-faced. Brilliant. It is amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. I love the windswept plant life of the island. The island itself is idyllic, but in this very bleak kind of British way, often. Trees are growing diagonally alongside sort of rough hedgerows. Hogg places sunsets behind the twisting branches, so you get these sort of beautiful bits of light shining through, and just... It's a gorgeous place, but it's also... windy, and a little bit tricky, and you have to be a little harder to live there, and it just kind of says all you need about the British.
And we're completely incapable. We're not hard enough to live there.
This is where we shall holiday.
Oh, we must. We must, for we are British. When he's leaning over the lobster pot, which he does, by the way, in such a meek yet intrusive way. Then the conversation about the lobster, like the cooking process, the grimace that he holds whilst he's listening to Rose is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just that sort of, oh dear, that's nature as she's talking, and the way he holds it and freezes in place pretty much with the grimace. There's just something so polite about it.
Yeah,
it's such a polite way of expressing the fact that he's upset, and it's heartbreaking. It really is.
It really is. It's really like it's hilarious that she gets the line, that Rose gets the line. Sorry, this can't be very good for you as a vegetarian. Yeah. Like she's the one who expresses that, and not him. That's amazing that he doesn't even have the agency to sort of express that. It's just incredible. Another little Hiddleston moment. I hope these aren't too Hiddleston heavy. I haven't filtered these out, but he is just so good in this. When he tries to explain why it's worth going to Africa to fight AIDS to his family, all he's trying to say is, if I can stop one person from getting AIDS, it will be worth it. There you go. That's what he's trying to say. But why say it in 6 words when you could use 50?
Yeah.
And he just keeps going on and like divergences and circles and just... It's just, oh God, his family just giving him enough rope to absolutely hang him with. And it's just incredible.
I know, God.
It's so believable.
Yeah, it is. It's unfortunately a little relatable. When this is one of the moments that I think if this was improvised, then these people are all fucking gods. When they're talking about him, talking too much to the hired help, and eventually he gets up and goes. The way that the scene is staged is you've got the dining room in foreground, in the background you just got Rose hovering, Uriah Heep-esque in the background, listening to them, being very, very capable of hearing them, and then
just there,
and then Edward is just the next room, just 5 feet away, and then Edward gets up and like goes to collect the plates and insists on helping.
He's so ridiculous, burning martyr sort of. Stop.
Yeah,
Just got too much
absolutely fine.
empathy.
It's
so annoying though. It's always in such a sort of accusatory way. Why don't we ask Crook to join us? As though No, we shan't. That's just Edward. Thank you, darling.
What's just Edward?
Caring about people's feelings.
Right.
Clearing the table. It's actually getting quite embarrassing now. I feel sorry for her.
So what do I do now?
We can both do it together.
You're right.
Would you rather I wasn't here?
It might be the greatest scene in the movie.
God, it's so good. and then they continue talking about Edward in the foreground, about his quarter-life crisis and what's he doing and all of this. And I think the mum says, "Oh, it's just Edward." And then he comes in, collects the plates, and then you get "Thank you, darling." And then before she's even finished the word "darling," he just goes, "What's just Edward?" And then continues to collect the plates and goes back out as they're talking about his moods and his impulses, and it is so slick and it is so natural. It's just a real gem of cinema. This moment,
It's an incredible moment because just the awkwardness, the instinct, the discomfort he has with this class system, and the absolute irritation that this invokes in Cecilia the sister, is just beautiful, because ultimately they just shouldn't have a cook. It's the real logistics of it. Like, they just shouldn't do. They should be doing their own cooking. What else have they got to do? We did our own cooking when we hung out in a house for several days, and we did a 12-hour long podcast recording. So what are you doing that you can't make your own fucking toast? But nevertheless, it's just, he's so uncomfortable with it and so incapable of addressing it completely that he just wants to still have it, obviously, but try and make it nice for her and like make her a part of the whole thing. And it's so wonderful because that scene is just emblematic of it. When they just tell him it's it's what she's here for. And then when he goes to do the washing up, you just hear them complain about it. And then after a beat, you just hear her say, so what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And in the foreground, the two women just start laughing at this. It's just incredible.
It's great. His whole attitude there is most reminiscent of All My Friends Hate Me, I think, because he's like, he went and worked on a similar thing. You know, he did like charity work, and he just can't stop going on about it, and has this idea that he's a sort of working class hero. And God, it's
and he keeps like taking issue with things the friends have said. It's just it's amazing. Rose plucking the chicken is a powerful image as well. She's in the kitchen. She's got the thing. There's light pouring in through the window, and she just looks capable.
Yes,
and she's setting about her work in this really, incredible way on her own. And maybe there is a moment of serenity there, just not being around Tom Hiddleston for one thing, but also just, I don't know. Like, also there's poignancy there as well, and some sense of sadness, but it was just a incredible moment.
Yeah, it really was. It was my Jane Campion shot.
Yeah.
The daughter organising where everyone can sit is just awful, but when they finally sit, there's a pause, and then you don't look convinced, Mum, and then it just brings the whole thing up again, and it's such a relatable family fucking thing.
Yeah, that entire dinner scene is my second favourite scene in the movie, because there's something cathartic to it, I think. There's something, I don't know, there's something about like eavesdropping on this conversation. You would just quietly wish that it gets worse, just in its own way, just in order to experiencing it vicariously. That just horrendousness, and the complaining about the order.
Yeah, and when the chef then comes out and explains that guinea fowl, is meant to be cooked a little pink.
Yeah.
She backpedals but doesn't, because she can't admit that she's wrong. She says, when she says to the family, that's actually really dangerous. To the chef, she's like, well, that's actually
so many times.
And then she pauses and then just says something else, because she realizes that she can't play that card anymore.
It's great. Yeah.
And you're like, yes.
Yes, and you're like, yes, because she's wanting to kick up a fuss. She's being unreasonable, and nothing in the entire world around her is going to help her. Her family aren't going to help. The food itself is not going to help. Everything is stacked against her, and there's just something a little bit, about it. It's hard to explain. But there's something cathartic about it.
Even though she's just sad and looking for help and attention. Sad.
I'm going to empty out. So my last four. The badger. Communicating through the badger is adorable. Handing out a book and just being like, you can read it on the train. It's just really sweet. And then everything about the picture being taken down and what it implies, and the lingering shot of it is gorgeous. And then finally, on his way out, Tom Hiddleston just saying bye to the cleaning stuff, and then bye house. I
loved how they all said bye to the cleaners, but none of the cleaners said anything back. Which is again, is they're like, we're one with the help. Yes, the way the sister, when she realizes that the meat is undercooked, she has a moment of like the anger boiling up in an instant, and it's almost like she's going, "Yes, I get to be angry," which is kind of what makes the whole thing so cathartic, like you say. The talk about not having children between Christopher and Patricia. There's a moment where Christopher goes, "Yeah, I kind of regret it. But I made that decision, and I'm around children, so it keeps me silly." There's just that wonderful little bit of vulnerability and honesty in there, and it caught me off guard before the conversation carried on. Such a good moment between characters there.
Absolutely.
Fucking wow! Probably my favorite scene. Maybe my favorite scene near the end. Christopher is talking to Edward about him just needing to like stick at something that he loves doing, maybe it won't feel like he'll know what he's doing, or it won't feel as concrete at the time, but you just got to do what matters to you. And the way he talks about it is, in painting you do a lot of wrong things, but they all contribute to the right thing. It all accumulates. It's such a lovely sentiment. And then when Tom Hiddleston's response is, I'm just not sure. And then he looks to Christopher for reassurance. And then Christopher fucking turns around frustrated and goes, "You're quite held, aren't you? You need to toughen up." and he does visit him later to try and apologize and check in on him. But just the frustration that you have at dealing with somebody who has learned to be so constantly negative. Oh, God.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing.
But you can so see clearly where it's come from as well. Yeah, that whole speech from Christopher is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I have two more things. The final dinner, I won't say what happens during it, but with the mum, but it's like a fairly emotional moment for the mum, and she comes in, and all the children can do is just go, the lasagna's delicious. Good. and it just fucking underpins everybody's problems. And the sweet thing that I love about the mum and Edward at the end, she tucks money into his pocket with a coy, "This is for you."
Aww.
And it's so sweet. And he looks at her like, "Oh, mum."
Yeah.
And it's so sweet. But they're, it's the end of the holiday, so they're able to be nice again.
Yeah, because you're not going to have to be around each other for much longer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all very, good stuff. Excellent. Yeah, Archipelago, an extraordinary film. And let's check in with the OGT.
Oh my God, I bet they've got a lot to say.
Well, one of them's got a lot to say.
Yeah.
On Twitter, we heard from Uncle Professor Dad.
Ooh,
that's
I
Jen.
like them.
That's Jen.
That's a Jen.
I think I might have lent her my copy. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I remember watching it and thinking, you're going to fucking love Archipelago.
Me or Jen?
I may have given it to her. But she says, both of you.
Okay. Yes.
But I don't know, something to this screamed Jen at me.
Yeah, okay.
She says, I think this will be the film I show to people if I want them to understand what middle-class England is like. The grey lighting is perfect. The horrid, polite tension is perfect. The scene in the restaurant as they try to choose a table will haunt me forever.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Agreed.
And Stuart Lee likes it. So.
And Stuart Lee likes it and mentioned it in his 2012 bit, Carpet Remnant World. He does seem to have relatively good cinematic taste as Mr. Stuart Lee.
Surprise.
He's quite niche, you know.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's like the comedian's comedian.
Who did he mention in his last thing? It was a director, Hal Hartley. That's right.
Okay.
He mentioned Hal Hartley and what's it called? Henry Fool, in his most recent stand-up thing, which is quite the reach. Yeah. Very, very interesting. Anywho, with that all said, let's talk about the one better thing. The one better thing. Obviously, this. And all of Joanna Hogg's work. I highly recommend that. It's really exciting now. I'm looking forward to The Eternal Daughter. I can't wait to see where she goes from The Souvenir Part 2, because it was such a departure, such a new kind of energy from her, that I can't wait to see what that now entails. And everything I hear about The Eternal Daughter says that I'm going to love it.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
But I would also recommend another British director, because if Joanna Hogg kind of represents a sort of upper middle class kind of view of life and, these fiercely autobiographical upper middle class dramas, then I would recommend Cleo Bernard, who is very interested in capturing sort of working class lives in a slightly Ken Loach way, but way more romantic, way more beautiful and bold. Like, if you look at something like Ali and Ava, her most recent film, there's just so much more poetry to it. And The Selfish Giant as well, which is a devastating film. But in a way that is also very human and charming and just... I don't know, sometimes that films are a little tricky to watch, and it does speak a little bit to the sort of social realism that British cinema is, frankly, a little bit too abundant in a way that, again, Richard Ayoade's character speaks to it in a very charming way in The Souvenir Part 2.
Oh, cool.
There's still plenty of magic with Cleo Bernard, so I highly recommend it. Let's start with Ali and Ava, I think. That's a good, light-hearted, positive little view of modern working class Britain that I think is very striking and a good companion to Hogg.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Nice one,
what
mate.
about you?
This is the first Joanna Hogg that I've seen. I've been meaning to watch Joanna Hogg for ages, as I explained earlier.
Yeah.
But honestly, this I didn't have the time or space to think of anything else. This movie is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I really recommend Souvenir Part 1 and 2. I think you're going to love those.
Can't wait.
Good stuff. All right, then. That was the one better thing.
Gosh.
The one better thing. Paul, how can people find out more about our adventures through cinema?
Oh, the same way they can find out about our adventures through time and space. By which I mean going on to Twitter.
Our graphic novel.
Yeah, our graphic novel. It's a work in progress. Some would say finished. I would say finished. Salt just mumbles and trails off and then dives in the nearest bin whenever I talk about it. But you can find out more. We've put out a cipher telling you about the upcoming release of our graphic novel, Adventures Through Time and Space, a Paul and Story, Yep. So most of Salt's
We've been putting adverts in the newspaper, but the only way we can get them to actually publish it is by stapling them to the bodies of tramps we've been murdering around town.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And and written on the page 3 of the Sun. From old, from old editions of the Sun, because as far as I'm aware, that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
So we've gone out of our way. We've really tried to get a viral marketing campaign going, but some would say it's not focused or like indicative of what the graphic novel's about. But if you don't care about that and you just want to see some good old pictures of the murders we've done, then you can go onto Twitter at OGTPod, Facebook as well, and send us an email, ogtpod@gmail.com. And take part in the OG team.
Become the OG team.
Yeah. If you have seen Archipelago and thought, they didn't even bloody mention the fact that
here we go.
Tom Hiddleston was in a rather frustrating blank, then, it's on you. So tune in for next week when it's not going to be Archipelago.
Yeah. When it's going to be some other brilliant thing.
Yeah.
I'm Paul Thing.
I'm Paul Brilliant.
Remember, the one good thing about Archipelago is that it really does capture the indecisiveness within us all. Doesn't it?
I don't know.